And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
When I first started reading the rules for Arctic Scavengers, and then I started explaining it to the people I was playing with, I said, you're going to be having 5 cards in your hand. At the end of your hand, you're discarding them. You're basically building your deck as you play the game. Everyone said, oh, it's just like Dominion. And thus indeed, Arctic Scavengers is a game that uses some of the mechanics found in the very popular game. Dominion just won the Dice Tower Gaming Awards for Game of the Year. But it's very different than Dominion in many respects. I wouldn't say that it's a copycat. It's using some of the same mechanics, but there is some differences. And so let's take a look at what the game actually is like. Each player starts with the same 10 cards in their hand. They get 4 of these refugee cards, which are semi-useful. They get a couple scavengers, they get a brawler, and they get a shovel and a spear. And they're going to take these cards, putting them together, and shuffling it to create a deck that they're going to be drawing from in the course of the game. There's also 2 decks of cards that are placed in the middle of the table. These are contestant resources. These are cards that are guaranteed to be very useful cards in the game. And then there's Junkyard, which contains useful cards, but there's also, well, junk in it. And so players are going to be using these cards to add to their deck. But also to the side, there's also piles of mercenary cards, and these cards players can use to hire to put into their deck. Now, every card of these people usually has some sort of stats. Let's take a closer look at a card. For example, here's a scavenger card. At the top, you see that it's a person with that little icon, and then each card has 4 different stats: draw, dig, hunt, and fight. At the bottom is the cost. So he has cost of 1 food to add another scavenger to your deck. Other characters, for example, here's a scout. She has 2 draw, 2 fight. She cannot dig or hunt. And the cost for the scout is 2 food and 1 med. Now, on your turn, you're going to draw 5 cards into your hand. Actually, everyone draws 5 cards in their hand. One player takes their turn, the next player takes their turn, the next player takes their turn, and then the round comes to a close. So you look at the 5 cards that you've drawn in your hand. When it's your turn, you can take several actions. You can take them in any order you want, but you can only take each action once. So for example, if I wanted to take the draw action, I could only use that once. But in this instance, let's say I send out these 2 scavengers to go draw. I want to draw more cards in my hand from my deck. I would add their 2 draw numbers together, and that gives me a total of 2. So I would be able to draw 2 cards and add them to my hand. Those cards are then used. I cannot use them for another action, and I also can no longer draw again. The next action is dig. And here this scavenger is using a shovel. A shovel is a tool which can't be used by itself, but if you put it with a member, it's useful. Even the refugee, who is pretty much worthless without it, can use a shovel. And now dig. Here I have a total of dig 2. Digging lets you go through the junkyard and draw as many cards as you dig, and you look and you pick one of these cards, and you'll be adding it to your deck. The rest of the cards that you don't pick will go to the bottom. In this instance, I already have a shovel, and I want this syringe because I need medicine. Another action I can take is hunting. Hunting, as you can see, is on several of these cards, allows me to get food. Now, food is kind of a nebulous resource. There's no tokens for food. But as soon as you hunt, when you have this food, you can then use it to hire mercenaries. You can hire 1 mercenary per turn. So, for example, if I wanted to hire these thugs, which are good because they have a fight value of 3, they cost 6 food or meds. So if I sent out enough guys to hunt, or if I had med cards in my hand to play, I'd be able to hire these thugs. Med cards are important because most of the mercenaries need meds in some fashion or form. A few of them need just food, but for example, I already showed you the scout, and here's a saboteur. He costs 1 food and 1 med. So that's what hunting does. The final stat on the cards are fight. At the end of your turn, after you've done your actions, you take the rest of your cards and place them face down in front of you. After every player has done this, they are all revealed. The player who has the highest fight total gets the top card from the contestant resources. See, in this instance, it's a grenade, which adds 3 to your fight, and which again would help you to get something else. Or here, for example, is a wolf pack, which adds 3 to hunt and 2 to fight. So you can see that the cards and the contested resources are very, very valuable. Well, what's the point of the whole game? The point of the whole game is to have as many tribe members as you can. The people that you start with are tribe members. For example, the refugee, you look in the bottom corner of the card here, and you'll see that they're worth 1 person, while the thugs, they have 3 people. Where the best and the most lucrative cards come from are the contested resources. We can see here's a tribe with 4 people, and there's even some tribes with 5 people in them. Very useful to have, and that's what's probably going to make you win the game. Most of the mercenaries are +1. There are mercenaries with special abilities. There's a saboteur who can knock a weapon out of somebody's hand. There's a sniper who can take someone out of the battle, the sniper team, before the battle begins. And there's all different cards that you could take to make the fight worth it. However, you're never sure exactly how much fight someone else has because they could put as many cards down as they want, even using cards as a bluff. When the contested resource deck is completely gone, and 1 card will be gone each turn, then the game is over, and whoever has the most tribe people in their deck is the winner. This game's going to get a lot of flack because it's a copycat game, I suppose, of Dominion. But it really has a completely different feel to it. You're drawing, you're digging, you're hunting in the deck, and the fighting at the end. It seems like there's a bit maybe more interaction with other people. And yet, I really don't know that I'm going to give it a glowing recommendation. I think I really enjoyed the game, but it felt like your options were fairly limited. There are 10 different mercenaries out there that you can hire from, and that's a pretty good mix, but it also felt like many of them were the same. The cards that are in the junkyard, many of them were the same. It feels like this is the beginning. I really would love to see expansions to this game. I really think they'd flesh it out. This game is just begging for expansions because right now it's good, but it feels very limited. I really think that there's a whole lot more that could be added to the game. I really enjoyed the fighting at the end. You can take your cards and you can save them all and fight for that contested resource. But if you don't get it, if someone else fights better than you, then you're in some serious trouble because you just wasted all your cards. You can ignore the contested resource, which I did in one game, and just strive and try to get as many mercenaries and such in your deck. And that's enough to keep you competitive, but probably isn't enough to win. So you need to know when to hire the mercenaries. The mercenaries are different. You know, getting the thugs is obviously very useful because they're worth several people and they have a good 3 fight, as opposed to the saboteur, who's not nearly as useful, but he can get rid of that tool. If my opponent has gotten a grenade in his deck, the saboteur will hopefully stop that grenade, stop him from winning. The sniper team and the scouts, and there's really just so many different people. Then you got those annoying refugees. You got brawlers who are good at fighting and decent at digging, and that's the whole theme of this post-apocalyptic future in the Arctic world and stuff. It comes across well. I like the theme. I like everything about the game. My only negative is it just feels like there's not enough. You play it and you're thinking, oh, I feel like I just got the taste, one bite of a delicious dessert, and I want to see more. There are several expansions planned, and so I plan to look at those when they come out and see how they progress the game. And this game has super amounts of potential. It's not there yet, but still, you might like it. I wonder that the replayability might not be there after several games, although with the expansions, who knows. But for now, a decent game about digging in the Arctic and finding those syringes in piles of trash. Who knew?
Thanks for joining us today. For more written, audio, and video reviews, as well as the #1 board game podcast, check out the website at www.thedicetower.com. Until then, this is Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower.